Hi, everyone. Tom Bialik with the Hobart Chamber of Commerce, coming to you one more time with another installment of Influencers in Action. Anyone who's familiar with basketball knows our guest today. We're joined by basketball great Pete Trgovich. Pete, thanks so much for joining.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Now, just to kind of recap things a little bit for our audience, you played on arguably the greatest high school basketball team of all time, the 1971 East Chicago Washington Senators. State title team. Many of those players went on to great careers post high school. You were recruited by, again, arguably the greatest basketball coach of all time, John Wooden from UCLA. Played on 2 NCAA national championship teams, and would have been a third had they allowed freshmen to play, which they didn't back in that era. Came back to East Chicago and coached the East Chicago Central Cardinals to a state title team in 2007. But other than all that, what would you say your claim to fame is?
Well, that's going to be a tough one, Tom. I really can't answer that.
In all seriousness, you got just a fabulous sports background. And we're not really here to talk today about any specifics related to that, but we want to find a little bit more about you, find out a little bit more about you as it relates to leadership. Now, I know that you've had the opportunity to play for and be associated with some great leaders. What are some of the things that you learned about leadership along the way? And how would you say that impacted your personal leadership style?
Well, obviously, the main influence was John Wooden. And that's not to knock my high school coach, John Molda. He was a very good coach, but when anything's going to appeal when you're talking about John Wooden. And so when I had to be very careful when I started coaching, because if I made a mistake, somebody would say, well, Coach Wooden wouldn't have done that. Well, I'm not Coach Wooden. There's only one Coach Wooden. But I'd like to say whatever I did do right, I took from him. The message is, it's the little things. You have to learn how to do the little things before you can see the big picture and be successful. And that's something that, again, he instilled in us. And when I became a coach, that's what I tried to follow. And I'm not John Wooden. I didn't try to be John Wooden. I was just myself, but I did take a lot of stuff from him.
Did you find yourself saying a lot of the same things that Coach Wooden would say, maybe some of his catchphrases and things like that?
I did, but I tried not to. You just can't help it. But I didn't want to get silly, and when he got upset with I never heard him use a swear word. Okay, but he would say, "Goodness gracious sakes alive!" And when he said that, you were in trouble. You knew you were in trouble. But so he didn't have to use the words like some other coaches do to get his point across.
How would you say maybe your leadership style differed from Coach Wooden?
Oh, I think, that's a good question. Because what Coach Wooden did was he let us play the game. He knows that basketball is not a coach's game, it's a player's game. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of coaches make, is they try to be overbearing, and they try to just have too much control. Where I think Coach Wooden had that ability because he was a great player. I think a lot of these coaches come in, they weren't great players, and so now they got to prove themselves. Coach Wooden had nothing to prove. He's in the Hall of Fame as a coach and a player. So I think that's what the main thing was. He let kids play, and I think I let the kids play. And I do think that if you talk to some of my ex-players, they might not say a lot of good things about me, but what they will say is we had fun practices. They had fun at practice.
What's the one thing that you would say that you're most proud of throughout your career, be it in basketball or anything else for that matter?
Oh, well, at this stage of my life, I retired to watch my granddaughter. Then 16 months later, I had 2 granddaughters, and they were worried that I couldn't watch 2. 16 months later, I had a third, and they're all worried that I couldn't watch 3. Then when I had my 4th granddaughter, and they're all under the age of 5, they decided I needed some help. And I think that's my greatest claim to fame. I told my daughter-in-law when they decided to make a change and to help me out, I said, Annie, if you let me watch these 4 girls, I'll be a legend. And she says to me, you're already a legend. So that's my claim to fame right now.
What do you want your legacy to be, Pete?
As a basketball player, I'd like my legacy to be a good teammate, somebody that you like to play next to. And I do think that I showed up at big games. I'm really proud of the fact that a lot of the big games I played in, I did well. And as a person, I just want to be a family man, and that's all. I just want somebody to know that, hey man, this guy's true to his family.
What's next? What's next for Pete Trgovich? Where do you want to take it from here?
Well, let's see. I think when my granddaughters and my grandson they start to go to school and I'm no longer needed, I think I'll go back to coaching and try to win another state championship.
Well, we look forward to that. Pete, thanks so much for joining us today.
Okay.
There you have it. Basketball legend and grandfather of the year, Pete Trgovich. Pete, thank you so much. Really do
Thanks for
appreciate
having me.
this. Once again, I'm Tom Bylick with the Hobart Chamber of Commerce. This has been another installment of Influencers in Action. We'll see you next time.